I'm Ezra Levant. It's May 23rd, and you're watching Battleground. Hello, and welcome to Battleground. I'm sorry, just out of the corner of my eye, I saw the first comment here, and it just made me laugh. Ezra, you have massive soy mouth in that picture. Change it, dude. No, soy mouth is more like that. I was just smiling like that. I wasn't even saying they just said smile. So I just sort of went, that wasn't soy mouth, but that's very funny. Oh my God. I'm sorry, you threw me for a loop there. That's such a funny comment. What are we doing? Well, every day from 12 noon to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a live chat on YouTube, and YouTube actually gives it a name. They call it Super Chat, which is not a reflection on anything I'm doing that's particularly super. It's just a way that you can chat with me in a super way. You can make a normal comment as the soy mouth insult. Now I can't stop thinking of that, by the way. Or you could put what's called a super chat for $2 or more. Your comment is in bright highlight. And if it's a lot of dough, like $5 or $10, or the other day someone gave 50, it's appended to the top of that and it stays up there for a period of time. So it's a way for your chat to be very bright and stand out. And believe it or not, we get the dough here at the Rebel, so it helps us pay the bills. Just for those who don't know what it is, and I'm obviously very upset, soy mouth is this pose that all these leftist soy boys who love their soy milk do. They almost always have beards, and they have a super big open their mouth like it's a weird pose. It's like it's a thing. It's a selfie thing, and I swear that's not what I was doing when I was taking that picture. Okay, I'm not going to talk about it anymore, but you've managed to knock me off course. Hey, here's what we're going to talk about today. Speaking of YouTube and Twitter and things of that sort, I've got some video from the European Union yesterday where Nigel Farage, the former UKIP boss, takes on Mark Zuckerberg. Great question and a lie answer. Obviously, Zuckerberg lies just all the time. We've got a weird barbecuing video from Mark Zuckerberg. And then I'll tell you the bad news that I learned literally an hour and a half ago, is that Facebook has suspended the Rebel's own page. We are not allowed to post anything. I wanted to live stream this on Facebook as we've been doing this week. That is suspended as well. In fact, our administrators here at the office are blocked from their personal accounts. Facebook will not tell us what we've done, will not tell us who complained, if anyone. Here it is, right? Please review your page's content. To continue connecting with people who like your page, please review the Facebook community standards and remove anything on the Rebel that doesn't comply with these policies. Well, everything complies. We have thousands of posts. They're just saying, hey, check the rules, man, and follow them, dude. If you'd like, you can temporarily unpublish the Rebel while you review your page's content. When you're finished, you'll be able to republish your page. Would you like to unpublish your page now? This is what they're saying. So this is exactly what all our administrators got this. And by the way, they're not even allowed into their own personal Facebook pages right now. Can you believe it? And what did we do wrong? We don't know. Thousands of Facebook. You find out. You know what you did wrong. It's like that KGB. I forget who was it. It was a Beria, or one of the first KGB bosses, who said, give me the man and I'll find you the crime. As in, you know what you did. You know what you did wrong, and if you can't think of what you did wrong, I'll find out something you've done wrong, because we're just going to use the rules in that kind of we'll use the rules as an excuse to get you. We've already convicted you. So what we charge you with is really irrelevant, because you're guilty. We've said you're guilty. We all know you're guilty, and the process is a joke. I was thinking about a dozen years ago when I was hit with a human rights complaint for publishing the Danish cartoons of the Muslim prophet Muhammad. I don't know if you remember, back at the Western Standard in 2006, we published those. And I was hit with 2 complaints by the Alberta government's Human Rights Commission. Some radical imam from Pakistan had complained, and the government of Alberta ran with the case for almost 3 years. It was ridiculous, it was absurd, but at least I knew who made the complaint. I got to read the complaint. I saw what the subject matter of the complaint was. We published the Danish cartoons. They talked to me about it. They asked me to answer it. I don't know if you remember, I did a video of me being grilled by the prosecutor of the Alberta Human Rights Commission. And in the end, the rules were very loosey-goosey, but they did have some rules. And I didn't have the power to cross-examine the complainant, but I had some rights. And in the end, they dropped it because there was a process. What process is here? Suddenly, our admins log in and they're told, you've done something wrong. And I think we all know that you know that we know that you've done something wrong. So we just know. And it would be spoken in that Catherine McKenna Valley Girl accent. Like, we know you've done something wrong. And you have to, would you like to unpublish your Facebook post? Would you like to? Because you've done something wrong. I think you know what you've done wrong. So what an absurdity. And there's not even an email given to inquire. Of course, no phones, no text, no human being, just that result. That's what censorship looks like in 2018. In 2006, when we published the Danish cartoons of Mohammed, and in 2008, when I was interviewed on video, that's what censorship was like in 2006, 2007, 2008. It was a government censor saying, I'm here to censor you, I'm grilling you, I'm coming for you, and you could fight back. In 2018, there's no complaint, there's no complainant, there's no process. It's just done. Was this because Justin Trudeau bossed around Facebook, as we saw in the Toronto Star article? Can you find that Toronto Star article, Hannah, and put it up while I'm talking about it? I don't know if you saw this. Funny enough, it was in the Toronto Star, which is a very left-wing newspaper, very censorious, very social justice warrior newspaper. But they know news when they see it. They actually have some good news judgment over there, even though their ideology is far left. And look at this article. We'll just call it up. My friend Hannah's getting it right now. This was published in February about a conversation over Christmas where, here, look at this. So February 8th, let me hold it on the screen, I'm going to read it. Trudeau to Facebook. Fix your fake news problem or face stricter regulations. Okay, scroll down a little bit. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has warned social networking giant Facebook it needs to fix its fake news problems or face stronger regulations from Ottawa. Well, that just sort of says it all. You censor people we don't like or we'll force you to. Trudeau told Facebook Chief Operating Officer Sheryl Sandberg in November, so it was even before Christmas, he was concerned the company wasn't doing enough to stop the spread of misleading information on their platform. A source with direct knowledge of the conversation told the Star. Okay, so Gerald Butts called up the Star. Scroll down some more. I want to read some more. Facebook has been under intense international scrutiny for allowing so-called fake news. False and often outlandish information presented as legitimate journalism to propagate on its network. Well, not really. I don't think any normal people are upset with what they find on Facebook any more than they're upset with what they find on the internet. There's crap on there, there's gold in there. And the crap, by the way, half the time comes from official sources like Justin Trudeau making up his cockamamie conspiracy theory that terrorist who accompanied him to India was planted by the Indian government, for example. Okay, let me read some more. Sometimes the articles are simply hoaxes designed to profit from Facebook users' clicks, but as seen during the 2000 blah, 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 let me read that last paragraph, it's the killer. As Canadian political parties prepare for the 2019 federal election, the source said Trudeau suggested Ottawa could intervene if Facebook doesn't adequately address the issue. So scroll right back up to the headline again. So the takeaway is, fix your fake news problem or we will fix it for you. And the kicker, that last sentence was, and you better do this before the next election. You would think that would be the news story of the year. You'd think that would be of extreme importance to every journalist, every Canadian who values a spectrum of opinion and wants to make their own choices about what news and facts they consume, wants to make their own choices about what fake news is and isn't, wants to be able to judge for themselves if they have to take the CBC at face value or if they can be skeptical about a state broadcaster, for example. No, in fact, other than that original piece in the Toronto Star, I have not seen any references to that story anywhere. Where's the Canadian Civil Liberties Association? Imagine if Stephen Harper had said that to Facebook, YouTube, Google, Twitter. You better stop that misleading news about me. I'm not a meanie. You ban it or I'll ban it. Imagine if Stephen Harper had said it, we wouldn't have heard the last of it. But Trudeau says it to Sheryl Sandberg, a senior source says, and everyone says, okay, got the message. This media culture is sick. And as I've mentioned before, Kevin Chan, the head of policy for Facebook Canada, used to work for the Liberal Party of Canada. So yeah, twist my rubber arm, boss. Sure, we'll censor your enemies. Okay, yeah, boy. You know, I mean, it's happening. And as Trudeau says, the country he most admires is Communist China, specifically for its, quote, basic dictatorship. So he's an authoritarian, just like his father always was. He's an authoritarian. It's 12:10, and we're doing Super Chat. Super Chat is what YouTube calls it. You can make a Super Chatty comment in the right-hand side there, and I'll read it, because there's a lot of comments going by. I really obsessed about the one that was making fun of my open-mouthed smile. I see Tom Youngjohn says, restocking the oceans, a conservative cause. Tom, I know this is the third time you've asked me about it, and I'm sympathetic to restocking the oceans. As a major eater of tuna and salmon, I am partially to blame for the despoliation of the seas. But as a landlubber from Alberta, who is now landlocked in Toronto, I have very little personal experience with the high seas, and I get a little seasick. I remember once I was in the Caribbean on a cruise, and I went out on a boat, and I'm not meant for the sea. I'm not meant for the sea. I'm meant for, you know, Saskatchewan, where you can have a puddle that's like a mile wide and an inch deep, where you can watch your dog run away for 2 days. That kind of flat prairie, that's for me. So I'm going to rely on your wisdom, Tom, about restocking the oceans. You know, I mean, I just don't have more to say, but I appreciate you raising it again. Let's look at some more comments, and then I'm going to get to some of the news today other than our own news. Andrea Hetherington says, seriously, people dump Facebook. Well, easier said than done. 2 billion people are on Facebook, which is its greatest asset. Facebook has some cool technology. There are other platforms that do too. But the reason we all use Facebook is because we all use Facebook. It only works if other people are on it. And because it was first, and it was the leader, and because Zuckerberg, although extremely weird, is extremely smart. He's a sociopath, there's no doubt about it. He's a liar. But many brilliant people are. So yeah, if you leave Facebook, it's like you're leaving a mighty battleship to go into a dinghy, and maybe that's fine, but you will not find the functionality elsewhere, even if there were a site that was superior. I mean, I've said this about Gab, the alternative to Twitter. 300 million Twitter users, 300,000 Gab users. So yeah, I mean, it's a tiny, tiny place. There are obviously individual people with 300,000 followers. I mean, Donald Trump is over 50 million. So it's that network effect. It's having everyone else on there that makes Facebook powerful. Unless you're really saying, I'm going to cut myself off just from reasons of breaking away from screen time, but that's a different argument. If you want to break from your phone, if you want to break from a screen, if you want to get out in nature. But that's different than, oh, I can do without Facebook if you are into social media. Tom is laughing at my very weak answers on seafood, fair enough. Trinoculus P says, hate speech enforcement to avoid civil war. Well, see, that's your problem right there, is hate speech enforcement does not release pressure and ease tensions. It's like a pressure cooker. I put it to you, there's a direct correlation between societies that allow robust free speech, rambunctious free speech, offensive free speech, and peace, and a direct correlation between countries that censor comments and violence. Because if you have no peaceful outlet for your grievances, what are you going to do? First of all, you don't feel validated. You're not even allowed to express your dissent. Second of all, you have no chance of solving your problem peacefully through persuasion. So what else can you do but boil and boil and boil until you say, damn it, I'm going to do something, take direct action. Free speech may be hard on our ears sometimes, but it is surely a better alternative than taking away free speech. Ellie Clark, thank you for $10, says, enjoy seeing your sense of humor shine through on these live feeds. Your accents are my favorite. Really? Ellie, I was sort of embarrassed at my accents the other day. I don't think I did them well, and I'm always worried that I'm going to, either A, get it wrong. There's nothing worse than someone doing an accent that's wrong. I suppose the only thing worse is if you get slapped with a human rights complaint. I'm not particularly worried about that. It's more of a joke. But these days, you can't do an accent or people get, not people, just the fancy people, the people who professionally take offense, which leads me into our gross story today. It's not going to be as gross as the bathroom story that we had yesterday. And I apologize for that, for showing you the Tim Hortons thing. I almost gagged. I don't apologize for the Zach tweet that Dave Berg has, because that's just the funniest thing. And but I'm sorry it was so bathroomy. But there's just a lot of bathroom news yesterday. It's just the way the world works. But let me tell you today's gross news of the day, and it's gross in that it's sort of a private matter that you don't really talk about, but someone really, really wants to talk about it, and the government thinks it should talk about it too. Let me show you an article on CTV, Canada's largest private broadcaster. Transgender woman files human rights complaint against Windsor Spa. Now, that is not the transgender woman there. That is the owner of a spa in Windsor, which our American friends will know is just across the river from Detroit. I'm going to read some quotes from this, but I'm going to just point out something here. CTV, this actually isn't a CTV article, is it? This is from the Windsor Star, but this story is in a lot of different places. In fact, I think our friend David Menzies did a video about it. I saw this in various U.S. news because it's just so crazy, but it's the trend. So before I read to you some articles on this, they're going to use the word her and she. And if you do the mental reservation and pretend that we're talking about a woman, then there's sort of an intellectual consistency, and you'd say, yeah, a woman went to an esthetician to get a private beauty treatment and she was turned away. But that's not true. A man who says, I am a woman, is not a woman. That's just a man saying she's a woman. He's a woman. The old joke, I identify as an attack helicopter. Yeah, but you're not. You're just a little goofy. As I've said 100 times, the proper response to people who are transgender is sympathy and kindness, and most importantly, not to be mean. As studies by various gay and lesbian groups in the United States have shown, transgender people are deeply troubled, and the suicide rate for transgenderism is shockingly high. In fact, according to one reputable study done in concert with the UCLA Law School, a gay and lesbian organization, and the Suicide Foundation in the States, gold standard study, academically credentialed, it found that transgender people who go through the surgery to get their kibbles and bits cut off, or undergo hormone therapy, have a 50 to 60% suicide attempt rate. 60%, 60, as in most. And it gets more the further down the road you go, because of course, if you're troubled by something, cutting off your twig and berries ain't gonna fix it. That's not going to fix it. You're just going to think, oh my God, what did I do? Why didn't you stop me? And if you go on the meds, the hormones, you think that's going to make you more even-keeled and at peace with yourself if you put yourself on hormones to change your nature, but you can't change your nature. Yes, you can convince some social justice journalists to say she and her, but you're a guy with troubles. And I say again, before I get to this story, don't pick on people with troubles. Don't harm them. No violence. Don't be mean to them. But enabling them and taking their side against reality is doing them no favors. I see a super chat out of the corner of my eye. Raven Wolfgang says, will Lindsay Shepherd be at the gathering on June 2nd? Yes, she will. And Raven, I think I recognize your name from the guest list, so I think you've registered too. I'll see you there. And Lindsay Shepherd will be there on June 2nd for people who want to know what I'm talking about. Go to therebellive.com. It's coming up in just a couple weeks. So yeah, I look forward to meeting you, Raven. Okay, back to the story. I've enough preamble. I just want to make it clear. If someone is a troubled person, don't be mean on them. Don't make it worse. But don't weaponize them. Don't take their side against reality. Don't take their side against others. And don't turn someone who is probably a victim in some parts of their lives, probably abused in some ways. Don't turn them into a victimizer. Don't turn them into a bully. And without further ado now, let me quote the story. I just wanted to say, I'm going to read, it's going to be absurd because I'm using the word she. A local transgender woman, well, you're lying right there. It's a man who presents as a woman, claims she, again, you're lying, it's a he, was denied services based on her gender, stop lying, and gender expression, and is seeking $50,000 for immense harm to my dignity. Immense harm to my dignity. Let's keep reading. I see a new super chat. I'll come back to it a little bit later. Following a conversation with an employee, I'm just going to correct it to he because I'm sorry. Yes, this is what the article reads like, but it's obscuring the truth. This is a man who's saying he's a woman, and that's why this is a story. You will see the reason in a minute. So I'm going to change the wording here because I'm not going to pretend that that's not reality. Following a conversation with an employee, he asked to speak with the owner. Carruthers said he called him back and explained that the female employee working that day was a practicing Muslim who refrains from physical contact with males outside of her family. So let me be clear here. You have a fella who's still got his meat and two veg, all right? So he's still got his gear. He's a fella. He says he's a gal, but he hasn't gone the whole 9 yards. And he goes to a girls' spa where girls do girl things and guys shouldn't go in there. It's a girl place and girls do things and that's great. That's what girls do. And they get prettied up and they, that's not for fellas. This fella went in there and he said, wax my junk. And it's a girl place though. And you can say you're a girl, but you're not a girl, and your plumbing is very ungirly. And I think that's a form of sexual harassment, frankly. You go into a women's spa for an aesthetic treatment. Let's use that phrase, aesthetic. You want some aesthetic treatment done. And if it's all girls helping girls, that's great. You go in there with your fella stuff, and you say, get going. Yeah, I'm not going to call that assault, but I'm going to call that sexual harassment or something. And frankly, if you're a female employee who works there and you do that, I just think that is super weird because that's not a girl. That's a guy who says he's a girl. Okay, let's keep reading. So now the he here is referring to the boss of the spa. He said his business has no policy against serving transgender clients. Really? I once again reiterate and state my position in the position of Mad Wax Windsor that all clients, regardless of sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, are welcome, he said in a statement. However, we also welcome and support all of our staff members and respect their religious beliefs and feelings of safety and dignity, yeah, no doubt, in regards to the right to perform waxing services on males or male genitals. Okay, so here's the thing. There may be a male approach to getting a male version of the lady treatment. That's not, but he went in pretending to be a woman and demanding that a Muslim woman do that on her. Now, I'm not saying that can't be done, but don't pretend you're a woman and don't insist that a woman who has traditional religious beliefs objects to doing. What's so fascinating here is it's obviously a game of politically correct poker, because on the one hand you've got the absolute flavor of the month, transgenderism, which way trumps regular gay or female or visible minority. So like there's nothing hotter right now It's so buzzy, transgenderism. Well, and then you've got a Muslim woman who is sort of Sharia compliant and doesn't want to touch other fellas' private parts. Who's going to win in that poker hand, politically correct poker? I mean, a white guy is like you got a high card of an 8, right? If you're a white woman, it's like you got a pair of 10s. You're going to trump a white guy. A gay guy is sort of like you got 3 of a kind. That's obviously going to trump a white woman. A woman of color, I'm just playing politically correct poker. I didn't write these rules. I'm just explaining them. I'm just explaining, you got to really have, so Sammy Davis Jr., he was black, he was Jewish, and I think he only had the vision in one eye. That's a pretty high hand in politically correct poker. Would you agree with me? Well, I think that both a transgender fella who wants to be waxed and a Sharia compliant Muslim woman, I think that we're talking about Clash of the Titans. Like that's something you can make an Avenger movie about. Like, like everyone else just backs away and goes, whoa, let these two duke it out. Who do you think's going to win? Who do you think's going to win? It's a tough one. It reminds me of that case in Toronto a few years ago at the Terminal City Barbershop downtown, where there was a Sharia-compliant Muslim barber man who was just a barbershop. It wasn't a hair salon. And a lesbian woman named Faith McGregor came in and said, give me a businessman's haircut. And he said, I don't touch women, not my wife. There's a ton of barbershops within a stone's throw here. Why don't you go there? Well, that was a hell of a showdown, right? Muslim man, lesbian woman. That was the battle royal in its day. But that was before transgenderism became a thing. And a Muslim woman obviously trumps a Muslim man in politically correct social justice terms. And a transgender man obviously trumps a lesbian woman, don't you think? So this, wow, this is going to be, they should charge pay-per-view for that human rights complaint, $50,000. They could make that up in pay-per-view right away. I mean, that's going to be amazing. I missed a super chat. Let me go back and find it. VM Parliament, have you seen an increase in subscribers to your show? You know what? I don't know the stats offhand. I'd have to check that, so I don't want to guess without looking. Sorry. We have new subscribers come in every day. I don't know which are attributable to this noon hour talk. Look at that! It's already 12:27, and all I've done was talk about a fella who wanted a Muslim woman to wax his gear, and our Facebook thing. I just out of the corner of my eye saw a comment. Dave Hadji said, "Ask a Christian baker what to do." Oh, you are so right. I mean, didn't we learn from the States recently where a gay couple insisted that a baker bake a gay-themed cake, and it was a Christian baker. And we saw this with the pizza parlor too. You must do it. You have an obligation to provide it. You must swallow your religious customs. Isn't that what this transgender man is doing here? He's insisting that this Muslim woman handle his carrot and peas. And if it was good enough for the Christians to be subjected to, is it good enough for the Muslims? Well, this is going to be a hell of a battle. I'm just looking through some more comments. Blue Mazer says, hey, Ezra, hey. Andrea Hetherington, the left will eventually cannibalize itself. Yeah, but they're going to rip up a lot of things in the meantime. I do not subscribe to the Marxist, the communist, the Leninist motto, the worse the better. No, because the theory behind it, things have to bottom out before they get better. No, don't do that. The pain is not worth it, and you destroy a lot of other things down the way. So yeah, the left is devouring itself. That does not make me particularly, does not give me any consolation. Rhaegar Targaryen, Evan Sauer, does she have a video talking about her being ethno-nationalist? Okay, you're talking about, I don't know what you're talking about there. I missed the earlier reference. I'm just skimming here. Muslims are usually above gays in PC poker, says Theo Elias. I think you're right. If I had to bet, I would bet on the Muslim woman, especially in Windsor. It's a very Muslim town. Like I say, across the river from Detroit, very Muslim city, Dearborn. I don't know if you've been watching. Katie Hopkins has been in Michigan for us. Looks like they may be the first U.S. state in the union with a Muslim governor. And not a liberal Muslim either. Like he's a Linda Sarsour style Muslim Brotherhood supporting radical. So yeah, Windsor's just across the river. And I think that the culture of Windsor is changing because of its Muslim character. And I mean, there are public schools with 50, 60% Muslim kids. And I just think that political reality is that Windsor is not really a safe space, to use a leftist word, for gay activism anymore. It's like Amsterdam. Amsterdam is the gay capital of Europe, really. It's the San Francisco of Europe. It's the biggest gay pride and all that, but it's also now a gay bashing capital because there's so much Islamification in Amsterdam. And you can't have people who love being out and about and flaunt their gayness in the same city as Sharia-compliant Muslims who believe in violence. And so the gay bashings in Amsterdam are an epidemic. And which is going to win that? Well, I'd bet on, as Al-Qaeda said, bet on the strong horse. When people see a weak horse and a strong horse, they bet on the strong horse. And at the end of the day, what's going to happen if there's a clash of the titans between a gay activist or a transgender activist and a Muslim? Well, which group sometimes resorts in the extreme to jihadist violence? There's no gay liberation organization. There's no Al-Qaeda. It's not Al-Qaeda. It's Al-Qaeda or Al-Qaeda. And at the end of the day, politicians are cowards, and judges are a species of politician, especially Human Rights Commission judges. They're going to side with the Muslima. That's my prediction. Okay, I don't think I've missed any super chats. It's already halfway done, and I've just really got started. Why don't we take a short break? I want to show you a short excerpt from my 8 p.m. show last night. Let me give you a few minutes of it right now. By the way, the footage I showed you was uploaded by various people onto Twitter, and Twitter took it down. They banned it. They claimed it violated the privacy of the Antifa thugs who hit Faith. Now, that's not true. Of course, you have no reasonable expectation of privacy when you're in a public place, especially at a protest, where your own organization has literally advertised to the media to cover the protest. There's no privacy. They have their faces covered anyways, as male feminists sometimes do when they punch women. That's the Antifa calling card, the coward's calling card. So no privacy to be violated, and they're criminals. But Twitter agreed with Jonathan Monpetit of the CBC, best not to show a woman getting attacked because that undermines the narrative. After all, the far right is violent, not the far left. That was what the CBC reporter said publicly, and it was liked on Twitter by all sorts of other journalists, including, for example, Rosemary Barton, the CBC's feminist political boss. She liked it. It's weird that way. The CBC is fine with men punching women if it's a feminist man, a leftist man. They love Jian Ghomeshi. CBC even set up a war room for Ghomeshi to discredit his accusers. They only fired Jian Ghomeshi when he made the legally foolish move of confessing his violence in a weird Facebook post. They stood by him until that moment. Same thing here, but more so. They hate Faith because she's right-wing, and so they're pleased that she got hit. Not even secretly pleased, because, why be shy about it? All the fancy people agree. It's like when Sheila Gunn-Reid was punched in the face by Dion Buse, an NDP activist in Alberta. He was convicted of a crime and then lost a civil suit brought by Sheila, but the media call him the victim because he got some mean comments on Facebook for punching a woman. He's a CBC hero, though, a male feminist. Or when Lauren Southern was grabbed by a male transsexual activist at U of T, he was the hero to the CBC because they hate Lauren Southern. They're fine with him being punched by a man. Again and again, conservative women are physically attacked. Again and again, at the very least, the media ignore it. But quite often, they cheer along. There was a clip from my show last night. I think we probably should have started with showing the violence against Faith Goldy herself. You might not have understood what that clip was a reference to without it. Faith, who's a former employee of ours, went down to the border crossing between New York and Quebec at Roxham Road. And There's a protest there, open borders, closed borders, whatever. Ton of police, both regular police and a riot squad. And Faith was punched, kicked, pushed with impunity. Police didn't do a thing. They were literally an arm's length away. They didn't do a thing. And the media did a thing. They filmed it all. They did not use the footage because that's contrary to the narrative, to show the violent, masked alt-left punching or kicking a girl. That looks awful. So they just left their footage on the cutting room floor, and they sort of laughed at Faith, just like they always laugh when conservative women are attacked. Which brings me to the case of Tommy Lauren. I'll show you that in a minute, but first let me just read I see a super chat. Blue Mazer says, Trudeau is the Canadian Ken Barbie doll. That's right. Yeah, I think he's pretty empty-headed, and he just speaks in cliches. That wouldn't be a problem in itself, because a happy, shallow Ken doll doesn't really do a lot of harm. He's sort of a mascot. Trouble is, he's a cover for people who are doing harm under the surface. In the Prime Minister's office alone, I think Gerald Butts, the principal secretary, makes the real decisions. And so you have Gerald Butts have the power without the accountability or responsibility. And Trudeau, he's really just a mascot, a distraction, a sleight of hand. But back to the alt-left normalization of violence. I suppose they started with the punch a Nazi theme when Richard Spencer, the alt-right racist from the United States, was punched in the street in Washington, D.C. It was such a meme, punch a Nazi. Trouble with that is, who gets to decide who is a Nazi? And by the way, being a Nazi is not illegal. And you don't have the legal right to punch people you don't agree with. If you punch a Nazi, can you punch a communist? Can you even punch a convicted criminal in the street? The answer, of course, is no, because just because someone else is a criminal doesn't give you the right to do something criminal. But punch a Nazi became so normalized in celebrity circles, in the popular culture. But how long would it take to move from punching a racist or maybe even a Nazi supporter? I don't think that Richard Spencer is a Nazi. I think he's a racist. To just punching anyone or attacking anyone you simply don't like because they're conservative or support Donald Trump. Well, the answer is we're there already. Let me show you a clip of Tommy Lauren, the very recognizable Fox News host, very blonde hair, a certain look. You could take it or leave it, what she has to say. I like some of the things she says. Other things I find a little bit jingoistic, but that's fine. It takes all sorts. MSNBC and the left news channels, they have their hosts. You can take it or leave it. But I've never heard of Rachel Maddow or any of the CNN hosts, Brian Stelter, who's very irritating. I've never once heard of them being attacked just out in public. Glenn Beck, I know he's been attacked in public. Take a look at this now. We've bleeped out the swearing, so it's just a bunch of beep, 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 beep. But I can assure you that these are bad words underneath. Take a look.
Hey, that bitch. Yeah, that bitch. This hoe. Racist ass bitch. Why you even out here? Get that bitch out of here. That bitch.
Yeah, she's just out at a patio, enjoying the sun with her mom, I think, and just the swearing. Why are you here? Get out of here. Driving her out from just a restaurant. And that's normal. That's just normal these days. That's been normalized. That's actually not normal. But that threat of violence has been okayed by the left, by everyone from, symbology, like Kathy Griffin holding a fake severed head of the president, to, the police themselves. When the police in Quebec stand by as Faith Goldie is assaulted, what message does that send? We have that message even with environmental extremists. They break the law with impunity. What message does that send? I think I saw another super chat go by. Let's take a look. V6 chipped in $2.79. Thank you. It says, how about Sundays live 2 hours? Most people off work. I've been thinking about it because on the one hand, I like having the whole staff feed video clips and stuff when I call for them out of the blue, and I suppose we could get folks to come in for a couple hours on a Sunday. They're rolling their eyes, probably hearing my big old plans. I don't know. I know that some other folks who do this, I think Ben Shapiro, Alex Jones, they do it during the weekday. I think I'd like to do it in an alternative time of day. to get people who aren't at work to be part of the Super Chat. Of course, you can watch this on YouTube later, and I think we make an audio podcast out of it. I'm still not resolved on that. I mean, some people say, how about do it at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m.? I don't mind the Sundays idea, although I am a busy dad, and by busy I mean I'm basically an unpaid Uber driver taking the kids around everywhere. So, I'm not sure if I would be able to commit to the same 2 hours every. I guess if it was like a late Sunday night kind of thing. I don't know. I'm going to take that under advisement. I want to figure out what the right time is, because I wonder if I did a different time, like maybe after the kids are in bed. Like, what would happen if it was like a 10 p.m. thing? Would we have 5 times as many people watching? I don't know. I guess I'm not finished thinking about that. It's 12:40, and I feel like I barely got started here. We're almost out of town. Let's play a clip from my friend Sheila Gunn-Reid. Here's a promo for her next show.
Hey everybody, it's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's another all-new gun show with me, your host, Sheila Gunn-Reid. Now, joining me tonight to cut through some of the fake news that came out of the United Conservative Party's founding policy convention in Red Deer a few weeks ago, and what a bunch of parents can really do when they get organized and they get focused, is Donna Trimble from Parents for Choice in Education. You don't want to miss it.
One of my favorite human beings in the world, my friend Sheila Gunn-Reid. I see a comment, I was just glancing at the comments while we were playing that promo. Robert Jackson said, Ezra, what do you think about Glenn Beck going MAGA, Make America Great Again? I'd say 2 things. First of all, I have disagreed with a great many things Glenn Beck has said and done over the last 2 years. But I actually believe his heart was in it the whole time. I don't think he was acting out of malice or bad faith. Glenn Beck is sort of an emotional person. I think he says exactly what he feels and thinks at any moment. So I don't think it was like maybe there was some opportunism, he wanted to zig where others zagged, but I don't think it was like some of the never Trumpers who were clearly paid by super PACs or paid by political enemies to be never Trumpers. I don't think Glenn Beck was that way. I think he was honestly upset by a few things that Trump did, his style. I think Trump's rough style worried and offended Glenn Beck. Anyways, I guess what I'm saying is maybe I'm naive, but I don't think Glenn Beck was actually a malicious never Trumper, unlike, let's say, an Evan McMullen or some other conservatives that have been revealed just to be on the super PAC payroll against Trump. So I actually think that because he was a good faith objector, and now a year and a half into Trump's presidency, he sees, well, look, I can't argue with foreign policy, I can't argue with energy policy, I can't argue with environmental policy, I can't argue with the Supreme Court pick, Israel, North Korea, Iran, immigration. I think Glenn Beck is honest enough to say, all right, I can no longer justify my anti-Trumpism. So I think it actually, some people say, oh, that's an opportunistic rebrand. Well, I'm sure it'll help his business. But I actually think he honestly was against Trump, even if he was mistaken, and he honestly came back to Trump, even if it looks craven. So I actually give Glenn Beck the benefit of the doubt. I think he's got a good heart, Some wacky decisions along the way, absolutely, but that's my thoughts. Let me read, I see some more super chats. Here's one from Craig McDonald, $6.99. Thank you very much, Craig. Hi, Ezra. I see Barbara Kay back on your show occasionally. Yeah, she's great. Will Lori Goldstein make a return as well? Are you still friendly with Brian Lilly? On Lori Goldstein, I like Lori, and he used to come on, I think, once every week or two for years. And I had a really comfortable rapport with him, and I really appreciated his common sense approach. He is also a super expert in matters like carbon taxes and cap and trade and stuff. I don't think I'm telling tales out of school to tell you that he has been ordered by his editors not to come on The Rebel. They just, for reasons of political rivalry or business rivalry, I don't know. Because of course we have other Sun News contributors who are Sun media contributors who come on. Anthony Fury, Candace Malcolm, Joe Warmington, whatever. So I don't know why they cracked down on Lori. And I miss him. I think it's great. And we're still chummy enough. he just doesn't come by anymore. Brian Lilly, no, I can't say I am friendly with Brian Lilly. I think he threw all his old friends here under the bus for a momentary minute of grace with his new employers at Bell Media, and I think it looked very bad on him. I don't have any malice towards him, but I think he left us in a pretty low-class kind of way. He threw the whole staff here under the bus in a weird and bizarre Facebook post that I think it hurt a lot of feelings in the staff. I mean, I got a thin skin as thick as an armadillo. It takes a lot to prick through my thick hide. And by the way, under my thick skin, there's also a thick layer of fat. So you got to be really natural insulation, as I call it. So not a lot of things hurt my feelings anymore, but I think Brian Lilly hurt the feelings of the staff who were so loyal and supportive to him for, almost 3 years. And then just suddenly for him to say that he thinks they're racist or something was outrageous. So that's Brian Lilly. It's a very candid question, very candid answer. But look, we have an amazing lineup of people. The media business is a high turnover business. Any media company, except for the state broadcaster, it's but they're a union shop, once in, never out kind of thing. Just in the last 6 months, the number of fresh talent that we've brought aboard, from Katie Hopkins, who's a star, to John Cardillo, who just hits it out of the park every day. Sebastian Gorka was doing a daily video. He's had to cut back because he's just too busy, but he's great. We've got Kurt Schlichter, who's joined us and started from LA. Ben Davies, Amanda Head. Of course, in Canada, we're fighting the fight too. We are looking for new talent, but we have so many voices. Jack Buckby in the UK, he's doing 2 videos a day, and they're getting a lot of views. So, there are some people who left the Rebel because they got better offers, some people who left the Rebel over editorial disagreements, some people who were ordered to by their bosses, like Lori Goldstein. But we trek on. We're almost 3.5 years old, and we're producing more content than ever. Rob Shimshock, another great addition. I don't know if you've been to our website, campusunmasked.com. Can we throw that up on the screen? Some of our folks don't even know about that. We have a daily video and news report. I don't know if you know this. Every single day, we have a news story, short news story, and an accompanying video, usually about 5 minutes long, about extremism on campus. Here's a look at the website. Just scroll up for a bit. Can you see right at the top? It says Campus Unmasked. Prof calls largest police union fascist. Prof ordered to apologize for elevator lingerie joke. Muslim student hopes Hamas tortures Israeli soldier slowly. Oh, do you see the next one there? Antifa group suggests burning police. This is a website. You can see it looks a little bit different than our regular Rebel website. It's set up I think it looks great. You can see on the left it says trending there. There's left-wing outlet Asif Peterson enables Jew hatred. Just crazy, crazy stuff. So I love this page, and Rob Shimshock is the name of the journalist behind it. He's a fairly young guy, not too far outside of school himself. So that is our campus. It's really Campus Watch. And it follows Antifa, anti-American, and anti-Canadian. If you see, I don't know if you can see the menu bar up there, it says colleges, USA, Canada. So it's about half US, about half Canada. So we've added that in the last, 6-9 months kind of thing. So there's a lot of great stuff at the Rebel. And yes, some of our alumni have gone on to interesting things, but I'm very proud of our team, and who knows who we'll have in the future. All right, I see some more super chats. Let me get to those. Ali Clark, awesome Rebel lineup right now. Well, thanks very much. I appreciate that. Craig McDonald, we need to see more Lauren Gunter. Well, what do you know? We got Lauren Gunter on the show tonight. Lauren Gunter was just on holiday, just got back on Monday. So 8 p.m. Lauren Gunter's a bit of a regular. That's another Sun Media guy. He comes on, a couple times a month. So he'll be on tonight at 8 p.m. And maybe Dave Rutherford. You're right. I haven't reached out to Dave in a little while, but he's always a hit. All right, it's 12:49, and I want to get to Zuckerberg. I already told you about the fact that Facebook has suspended our account. No explanation. They just say, you know what you did wrong, so you better fix it. And do you want to unpublish your entire Facebook page now? No, actually, I don't. But you're cowards for not even signing a name to the complaint, signing a name of who made this decision, telling us what was wrong. They're a bit of a sociopathic company because they've taken on the embodiment of their boss. Let me show you an exchange that Nigel Farage had with Mark Zuckerberg, who was in the European Union, taking questions from legislators there. And that's where Nigel Farage, he sits for UKIP in the European Parliament. Take a look.
There were a couple of questions about political bias that I want to touch on, because I think that this is a very important topic. As a couple of you mentioned, we are committed to being a platform for all ideas. That means that we want to make it so that people can come to our service and share any idea across the political spectrum. It's very important to me that we're a service that allows for a wide variety of political discourse. We view that as a big part of our responsibility, and I can commit to you here today that we have never and will not make decisions about what content is allowed or how we do ranking on the basis of a political orientation. So that's an important philosophical point for me that I'm proud to be able to commit to. There was a specific point around distribution and reduction of seeing people's content, and on that, what I'd just say is we've made a number of changes this year to make sure that we're showing people's friends and family and community content more than public content in general. So a lot of the feedback that we've heard from people is that they come to Facebook because they want to stay connected to people.
I guess we didn't show you Farage's questions. He basically said, why are you suppressing traffic to right of center sites and not left of center sites? It was a great question by Farage, but the answer was telling. You saw Zuckerberg saying, oh, no. We're not censoring conservative sites. We're censoring the nature of sites. We're going to give you more friends and family and less news. Well, that sounds like an answer, but if you look at, in fact, the amount of traffic to liberal news sites has increased. So the traffic to conservative sites has decreased, but the traffic to liberal sites has increased. Mark Zuckerberg's answer was a lie, as so many of his statements are. He's always got that sort of very strange stare. So it's hard to I mean, he would be an amazing poker player because he's so awkward all the time. Is it all one big poker tell? Is he all bluffing? Is he always lying? He really is not good at natural human emotions. I want to show you a clip. We're not going to play the whole thing. This is an excerpt from, he did a Facebook live stream the other day when he was barbecuing, because that's what human people do. He heard, someone gave him a briefing note that humans sometimes barbecue meat. And he said, well, I am a human, and I will now eat the barbecued meats. And then he did a Facebook Live, and here's sort of a supercut of that. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'll play as much as I can stand and roll it for a bit.
We are live from my backyard, where I am smoking a brisket and some ribs. I'm making meats now. Smoking these meats here. Our little meat smoking. It's smoking. So I'm the meat chef. Yeah, someone asked me, do I smoke meat? Smoking meat. Smoking these meats. Smoking meats earlier in the day. Smoking these meats, just set the charcoal up and you set the wood chips up, and then smoking meats, grilling meats, good smoky flavor. Smoke a brisket for like 12 hours. You smoke lemon chicken, smoke salmon, you'll love it. Bison sirloin, ribs and sausage, so I'm looking forward to that. Today we got a brisket on the big guy, and some pork ribs on the green egg. Meat like a brisket. I got ribs in there. Finishing off the brisket and the ribs, and I'm just sitting in our backyard, finishing off this brisket and these ribs. But hopefully for Canadian Thanksgiving, you get to eat a lot of brisket and ribs. How many of you guys are eating brisket and ribs tonight? Brisket and ribs. They taste doubly better when you hunted the animal yourself. So what are you guys making for dinner? Brisket and ribs, I hope. Delicious. Brisket and ribs. The ribs and the brisket need to be eaten. I want to try your brisket. I want to try my brisket. It's a pretty tough cut of meat. The ribs and the brisket. Are you excited to have a rib tonight? I want my baby back ribs. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. That is going on the ribs.
That goes on, and believe me, I would play the whole thing, but I just don't want to subject you to it. He was so lifelike there, wasn't he? Because he understands that the people sometimes like to take meat from an animal and then smoke it, and they like brisket, and they also sometimes like ribs. And he had some really natural friends there who were just really good guys, and they were smoking meat together. Yeah, that's the master of your universe. And right now he's the master of our universe. He has simply suspended what the Facebook, what we're like. Let me just read it again. To continue connecting with people who like brisket, please review the Facebook community standards for smoked meat. I'm kidding. It said remove anything on the Rebel that doesn't comply with these policies. Well, we have what? In our 3.5 years on this world, we've published 8,200 videos. So yeah, you want to narrow that down, or you just want us to delete it all? It's 12:55. We only have 5 minutes left. I saw another super chat come in. Let me find it here. Andreas Von T chipped in $2. Thank you. Martina Marcotta, in your future. Well, she's amazing. She's very compelling. I've had the pleasure of meeting her. She used to work at the Daily Caller. And here's hoping. I mean, I'm not in a position to say anything more firm than that at this point, but I think she is one of those unique voices who is not a traditional conservative. In fact, I don't think she came to it other than through the shocking treatment she was subjected to by others in the New York art scene when she dared to say what tens of millions of Americans said, which was, hey, I'd like to make America great again, and I sort of like Donald Trump. Well, the vicious treatment she was put to by her open-minded liberal friends in New York is quite a story. I saw some other notes here. I was looking through that Zuckerberg thing. You can watch that all day, you know, or maybe not. Someone said you still get along with Tommy Robinson. I had a chat with Tommy just the other day by email. It's the time zone thing, but no, he's doing great. I gave him a big congratulations for the day of freedom that he had. And he was sort of excited. We talked a little bit of business, and I told him I really admire his work since he's gone independent. I mean, look, Tommy's not built for a boss. I don't know if you know that. I don't know if you noticed that about him. He's a little bit of an independent spirit, maybe the most rebellious rebel I've ever met in my life. My one fear about Tommy, and I think you probably share it, is I am afraid for his physical safety. What can I say? And I always tell him that, and I think he's sick of hearing it. It's like I'm his dad or something. Oh, be safe. And we know he's been attacked on the street. Last year he was attacked from behind. He was put in a coma. That's not that far between a coma and, God forbid, being killed. And I hate to talk that way, but there's so many people who want to do him harm. As you know, when he was put in prison on trumped-up charges, the warden had him in general population. UK prisons are run, they're halal. They are halal prisons. They are run in concert with the Muslim leadership in the prison, as in prisoners. You don't put Tommy Robinson in a ward with murderers serving life in prison, Muslim murderers. They tried to kill Tommy in prison. He literally requested to be put in solitary confinement for his safety. I won't talk about other safety issues of which I'm privy, other than I think you know when we built the studio for him. I don't think he uses the studio much now, but we gave it to him for the remainder of our prepaid lease. We put in bulletproof doors. Bulletproof doors. And I won't tell you about our conversations with the counterterrorism police, but I mean, that's the thing. When the police come to Tommy these days, are they coming to arrest him on some political crime, or are they coming to protect him from some jihadist plot? You really, and he makes that joke too. He doesn't know why the cops have come to him in that particular instance. So my one fear about Tommy is his physical safety. And I'm sure you feel that way too. It's not that bad here in Canada, but earlier today we've shown you physical attacks on Faith Goldie, physical attacks on Sheila Gunn Reid, physical attacks on Lauren Southern. We showed you physical attacks, or at least threats of attacks, and drinks being thrown at Tommy Lauren. So I think in the UK it's just more extreme and more advanced, but we have the same problems here in Canada, United States. Craig McDonald, is Tommy Robinson working with Kaylin Robertson? Yes, he is. And of course I have my deep disagreements with Kaylin, but I'm not going to tell Tommy who he can or can't use as a cameraman. I mean, that's his own decision to make, and I respect Tommy. And I regard him as a friend. As I said to him, it was a fascinating, he spent a year with us, and it was, I learned so much. I have to say, I don't know if I like the fact that I learned the things I learned. What I learned about the United Kingdom has broken my heart about the UK. I'm a Canadian, so of course we have the Queen of England is also the Queen of Canada. Did you know that? She's our queen. That's why she's on our money, postage stamps, passports. And I always had a slightly idealized notion of the UK, the mother of parliaments, the mother of freedom, Shakespeare, King James Version of the Bible, the great empire that brought democracy and rule of law and ordered liberty to the world. Churchill, Thatcher, that's, fighting the Falklands War. That Juno Beach, sorry, that was the Canadian one. The Brits had their own beach too, Sword, and I forgot the other one. It's 1 o'clock, so I got to wrap up, but my point is, until I got to know Tommy and visited him half a dozen times over there, I had this idealized notion of the UK. That's gone now, and now I see ruin, and I see a premonition of our own future. And on that pessimistic note, let me tell you, it's 1 p.m. Thank you for your super chats, and you're slightly less than super chats, and you're even more than super chats. As usual, I didn't even get through all the content. It's great to see you. Until tonight at 8 p.m. and tomorrow at 12 noon, on behalf of all of us here at Rebel World Headquarters, keep fighting for freedom.